My name is Aaron Ladd, host of the Chiefs Squad Show, and Kansas City enters one of their biggest games of the season, riding a flawless 3-game homestand. JC, what you got for us?
Yeah, my name is JC Pearson, and I tell you what, when this offense gets rolling, they are tough to stop.
Darren Smith live here at Arrowhead. It's been a tale of two halves with this Chiefs offense. Is this a sign of things to come?
I think it is a sign of things to come, Darren. I think you look at this game and it's just a matter of can the Chiefs stop beating themselves?
Chiefs Kingdom, stand up. It's the Chiefs Squad. Everything Kansas City Chiefs every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from Arrowhead Stadium, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Chiefs Squad Show starts now.
All right, it is the Chiefs Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. JC Pearson, Chris Clark, Darren Smith, and Aaron Ladd breaking down another Kansas City win, make it 3 in a row, and a flawless 3-game homestand for the reigning AFC champions. We will give our instant reactions to Monday Night Football, plus recap what was a sluggish first half and a second half surge for Kansas City, due in part to some big plays on defense, of course, from Mike Dana. We will take your questions as well. Do not forget, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. If you're watching on stream, which you should be on YouTube with us, every post-game show you see right now, Darren Smith, with that access unlike anyone has, showing some locker room action and players filing in after this win. Let's kick it off with you, JC. You've been a Chiefs player. You've been in the locker room after a win. What stood out from this game and this win, 28-7 over the Washington Commanders?
Man, just tale of two halves, right? I mean, the first half, you're like 7-7. You just didn't expect that. You know, obviously 4 possessions offensively, 2 turnovers, a touchdown, and then, ends at, on downs at the end of the first half. And you're like, man, what's going on, man? And then defensively, Mariota was, they were moving the ball. I was kind of surprised that they didn't kick field goals, that they went for it on 4th down a couple of times. But I think they knew that they were going to need the points down the line. But yeah, tale of two halves. And then whatever adjustments they made at halftime, unlike, we've seen that before. But they came out the second half and just really started rolling offensively, got in a rhythm. And once they do that, they're awfully tough to stop.
It's like 2 prize fighters trying to feel each other out in the early rounds. First 5 possessions all end in 0 points for either team. Chris, what'd you make of this game? Just instant reactions as we continue to break down the action.
Crazy. Chiefs don't punt until the 4th quarter. You look at this game, you talked about it. The first 5 possessions, nobody scores a point. You don't have a punt. You've got so many turnovers. Patrick threw a couple of balls threw one ball that was a great play, and then another one that Travis should have caught, but turns into another turnover off of Kelsey's hands. Got to take care of that going forward. But they're doing things right when they need to, and that's really what it comes down to at the end. Is they figure it out at halftime and finish it out. It almost made me wonder if they were kind of looking over this Washington team with the way that the first half started.
And that's a good thought. Let me jump in here, JC, before passing it to you. I don't think you overlook any team in the National Football League. They got guys on that sideline, obviously. And I want to say, as far as the first half, Washington was dominant in the trenches. Mahomes was moving around a lot. He wasn't able to get to his first read. You could see that he wasn't bothered, and what Washington was doing was getting to them. I don't think they overlooked them. Maybe they just thought, hey, it's prime time. We haven't hit our full gear yet. I think, obviously, Kansas City played well in the second half. But, JC, what do you make of Chris saying that maybe they overlooked?
Yeah, I don't think they overlooked them coming in. Obviously the left side of the offensive line were, 2 backups. I think they had to kind of get settled in there, but and those guys made some plays in the first half. I mean, you give those guys some credit. The first interception was a great play, not a great throw by Pat, but a great play by the DB on that trying to throw that back shoulder fade. And then Mariota made some plays for them with his legs, and made some plays with his arms. And I think in the second half, they kind of went to more quick throws, and they, got things rolling, got into a rhythm. But, I just think, when you say that we talked about how these teams only play once every 4 years. So we thought that Washington wasn't going to be able to adjust to the Chiefs offense, but the same thing goes for the Chiefs. We had to settle down and see what Washington was doing and how we could take advantage of that. And, it just kind of took a half to get going.
We're riding this Travis Kelce roller coaster, right? For it seemed like everybody was at their wits' ends with him after the interception goes off his hands. And then he goes on to have two of the biggest plays en route to the second scoring drive that helped KC kind of separate some distance here. I'm trying to get the exact numbers up. Travis Kelce, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 99 yards, 1 yard shy of a triple-digit receiving yard game, and the touchdown, the longest for 38. There were a couple times where he got lost in the shuffle as far as the defense. I know it's got to drive a defensive coordinator nuts. How do you lose track of 87 still in what we think may be his final year, still creating havoc as far as defenses are concerned and finding a way to keep getting butt naked wide open running through the secondary?
Well, I'll jump in there. I mean, there's so many guys on this offense that you've got to account for, but if it's me, he's still the number one guy you got to account for. And it's it's baffling to me how people are so quick to jump on him if he, the ball squirts out of his hand or whatever the case may be. I mean,
JC, this is the second time that's happened this year, though. This is the second time that's happened.
2 times. Oh, wow. How many balls have they thrown to him? And this dude is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And now the first one, whatever game that was, Pat can take some credit for that because the ball was thrown a little too hard, a little too quick. He didn't get around quick enough. This one, whatever the case may be, as soon as he makes a mistake, everybody's, he's thinking about getting married. He's thinking about Taylor. He's this, he's that, he's this, and I was in the Founders Club, and those were all things that people were saying in the Founders Club. And then, as soon as he makes a big play, Travis is the man, and I'm, fans are just so fickle, but let's get to Darren real quick because he's going to have to run into the locker room. And let's get to Darren's thoughts really quick. I'm going to unmute his mic. We're talking about Travis Kelce and some other things here, breaking down this 28-7 win.
No, I've been hearing everything. I mean, look, Travis, like you said, for him to be wide open in the middle of the field on the sidelines and stuff where he could get extended yards after catch was something that was unbelievable if you're just watching it from a distance. One of the things that I do like to point out, once again, 2 weeks in a row, the Chiefs have had a balanced attack on offense. They rushed for 148 yards on the ground. Patrick threw for almost 300. So, so while we talk about a tale of 2 halves, the first half started off slow. The second half, it just opened up and exploded offensively. And so I do want to give huge kudos to both Andy Reid and Matt Nagy for somehow figuring out that you got a lot of explosive players. Let's utilize them. So with that, I'm going to jump off and you're going to the locker room. And I'll be back afterwards.
Our intrepid reporter, Darren Smith, on the grounds there at Arrowhead. Chris, jump in as we're doing our instant reactions here. Travis Kelce, running game, whatever floats your boat.
Well, I think it's interesting because Travis Kelce, you see the dichotomy between Travis Kelce and Noah Gray and the relationship they have with Mahomes and the way they read the field. Travis, on that big catch that he ran down the sideline, wasn't even supposed to be a wide receiver at that point. Wasn't even supposed to be running a route. He's blocking and realizes his quarterback's in trouble, leaks out, and then has that big catch and runs down the sideline. Whereas a couple series later, Noah Gray could have been wide open for a touchdown, but doesn't read it the same way that Mahomes does and is running the route as it was designed, not what Mahomes was trying to do. And it's a little bit, a little off. It's just interesting to watch the dichotomy between those two players when Gray has been with Mahomes for quite a long time as well, but they just see the game differently.
I kind of had a similar read on Kelce's touchdown. Like Mahomes is extending the play a little bit. Kelce's kind of just doing after the play stuff, reading his eyes, creates a little separation and ends up with a touchdown. The chemistry that they have between those two. I mean, I hope Chiefs fans appreciate what they're watching and don't take it for granted, which is something I said very often when I was covering the team in KC. It's a special connection. It showed up multiple times tonight, JC.
Yeah, and it's not just Travis now. You see it with Rashid, you see it with Juju, you see it with, a lot of these guys now where they, because they know that Pat's going to extend the play. So those guys break their routes off. They're running just to open spots, especially when they got zone coverage and they can find open spots. They sit down. It's something that I'm sure they work a lot on in practice, because you have to. You can't just improvise those kind of things in a game. And like Chris was saying, I'm surprised that Noah, didn't do a better job of that. And then they threw the one in the end zone where Noah was the only guy that he was throwing to, and looked like he was, blocking more than trying to release some. But that'll come as well. But when he starts to scramble and guys break their routes off as fast and as explosive as all these guys are, somebody's going to be open somewhere. And Pat does a great job of buying time and finding those guys.
Appreciate the everydayers for rocking with us. Chris, go ahead.
I just want to say it's funny because you watch this game and you see plays that Mahomes makes where you're sitting there going, any other quarterback, you're going, no, do not do that. Throwing across his body as he's falling away and still getting the first down. And we've seen it happen multiple times, and we know he can do it, but it's still one of those things when you're watching, even watching him as long as he's been playing now, I'm still sitting there going, don't do that. And then first down, what do you expect? I mean, I should expect it by now, but it's just one of those things you get so used to saying you don't throw like that, and he still does it and still finds a way to make plays. And JC, you're right. There are many guys. It's not just Kelsey. It's Juju. It's Rashee Rice to an extent. I think Worthy's getting to a point where he's starting to realize and starting to really feel those zones as well. And it's going to be a special connection with those for the foreseeable future.
And from a defensive standpoint, it's so hard because we see Pat taking off and running so much,
yep.
which helps down the line, because now as a defender, you see a lot of those guys coming up to thinking he's going to run it. And next thing you know, now he just drops it off to a guy right behind him. Or if the guy stays back in coverage, well, Pat continues to run and gets yardage. I don't like to see him run as much, but it really plays on a defense, especially when he gets out on the edge. Do we sit back and let him run, or now do we come up and try to stop him, and then somebody is running wide open behind you? So it's really tough on a defense.
I appreciate the everydayers for rocking with us. It is a celebratory Victory Monday here on the Chiefs Squad Show. We will get to your questions at the end of the episode. I want to shout out our everydayers. Will remember one of our very first squad shows, we saluted Andy Reid for his aggressive nature, leaving Harrison Butker, who was struggling at that time, on the sideline and leaving the ball in 15's hands. And though it didn't pay off early in the first half and it was a little sluggish start, which we'll continue to talk about, go for it on fourth down more often. I saw that there was a little quote from Greg Olson that was circulating around the national media that maybe some teams are just going to stop attempting the short field goals to begin with and just go for the touchdown in trade for the short field position that you would give up on a touchback. I think Andy Reid's ahead of the curve here and gives voice to that quote from Greg Olson. Just go for it. Leave the ball in Mahomes' hands. If it's 4-1, if it's 4-3, whatever it is, trust the best player in the league to make the play. And though it didn't pay off early, maybe your offense learned something down the stretch. I thought Kansas City played well in that aggressive mindset early.
I agree. I think that he has to continue to be aggressive. And as long as they continue to be aggressive, this is going to be a very fun season to watch. I was trying to go back and look as you were sitting there talking. I cannot remember a time since maybe his rookie year where Mahomes has got 3 touchdown passes in 3 games in a row. It has just been a different Mahomes this past couple of weeks as the offense has started to get healthy, where you get Worthy back and now you have Rice, and they're starting to click and being able to find all these different players. And you talked about Travis Kelce being at 99 yards. Patrick Mahomes was at 299 yards. So both of them right on the cusp of hitting those magic numbers and not quite there.
And they're doing it in a different way than what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing the big play over the top and long touchdowns. Now it's a lot of quick throws, a lot of short throws, a lot of screens, a lot of, just quick curls, catch, just get the ball in your playmakers' hands and let them make plays for you. And then once the defense starts to creep up, well, now you can take a shot over the top. The ball is getting out so quick now. That's one thing I really noticed, especially in the second half, how fast the ball is coming out. so that Rush doesn't have time to get to him like it was before when he was just hanging on to the ball, looking down the field, looking for the long ball every time. So, they've kind of changed their offensive philosophy up a little bit. Just get the ball out, get it into your playmakers' hands, and let them do the rest.
Chiefs scored 21 points unanswered in a second half surge, but unfortunately, we have to look back at how they got there. We will relive a sluggish first half for the Kansas City offense en route to this win right after this. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, you can be right. You can bet on being right to get paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks apps today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, we are back in on the Chiefs Squad Show on a Victory Monday. Aaron Ladd, JC Pearson, and Chris Clark breaking down the 28-7 win. I've got Travis Kelce joined by SVP on my TV. But a lot of people were upset with Travis Kelce after that kind of ball hit his hands for the second time. Look, it wasn't the only mistake. And I think really what defined this first half, from my perspective, I'll let y'all take it wherever you want to after this, was the trenches. KC had a little patchwork offensive line. Mahomes looked uncomfortable. Jalen Moore got absolutely worked for one drive. And then the offense started to settle in, and so did the trenches. But for that first half, I think it was sluggish because they were getting beat where it mattered the most, and that was on the offense and defensive line.
Hard to argue with that. Jalen Moore got beat multiple times and gave up a sack, just got bull rushed a couple of times where Mahomes gets pressure right in his face. It's going to be difficult for him to be able to do anything with it. And that brings up the other question, which we still don't have an answer to, is when is Josh Simmons going to be returning? A lot of people have been talking about that. Clark Hunt said that today that they've had some conversations. They expect him to return at some point, but that's about all we have. Jalen Moore to this point has played very well, but it was a struggle today, and it was more of a struggle just because Jalen Moore and Trey Smith missed the game. So you have Mike Caliendo starting, who also had trouble in the first half. And when you're talking about interior pressure, that is going to mount, and that is going to cause issues with your offense. And I think that really kind of slowed the offense down to an extent.
Well, yeah, I think, again, no excuse for a slow start, especially first 15 are scripted. So, they know what's coming and they know what plays are being called. But again, they just got to start faster. You just got to come out, got to execute, got to start faster. And, if they don't turn the ball over, who knows, but again, You can't turn the ball over again. The first one was not a great throw, not a great decision on that back shoulder. Good play by the corner again, but still the receiver was not open at all. But again, and then with Travis, blame it on, maybe the throw was too hot. Maybe, the ball was wet because, the mist, whatever the case may be. You can't make excuses. Yeah. You got to make those plays, but those guys are human also. And, sometimes you're not going to make 100% of the plays that you're out there, for. So, they just got to get better and you get more focused because we know they can do it because they went in at halftime and whatever adjustments were made, whatever was said, whoever said whatever they said need to say those things in the pregame versus halftime because they were a different team in the second half.
It's always nice to take your lumps in a win. And I think one of the things that people always say in sports media is the true sign of a good team is when you can win when you're not playing your A game. I don't know if I would classify this as Kansas City's A game. Obviously, they played extremely well in the second half and did what they needed to do to shut out Washington in the final two quarters. But as far as the first two quarters are concerned, I was scrolling social media like the rest of y'all, and a lot of the comments from Chiefs Kingdom was, oh, this is a classic Kansas City playing down to their opponent game. And it seems like the overlooked word that we used in the first segment. I got some more numbers behind the first half slow start. Kansas City outgained 194 to 156. The Commanders run 3 more offensive plays. And I don't think anybody ever felt like it was going to be a loss. We were texting in the group chat and said, hey, lock in, strap up. Like KC maybe needs to get the crust out of their eyes a little bit. I don't think if they were ever in fear of that. But the Chiefs have these in their collection as far as these dynasty games are concerned. They've won some stinkers en route to some of these Lombardi trophies. Not every game has been an absolute piece or a Scorsese or whatever, or a masterpiece. Like they've won some ugly games here and there. I want to go back to you, JC, and then we'll go around the horn. I'm sure you've been in games where backups have to come in or guys who aren't expected starters have to come in. Does the team game plan change? Do you dumb things down a little bit? The offensive line is kind of how we got here as far as the conversation, but it can be taken anywhere along the ball as far as trying to make sure everybody's on the same page when it's a different group.
Yeah, no, the backup is expected to come in and perform. That's what you're there for. Now, obviously you're not probably going to be as good as the starter, or you'd be the starter, right? But you are expected to come in and give a winning performance. Does that mean you're going to be flawless? Nobody's out there is flawless. Everybody gets graded every single play. Nobody's flawless, but you're expected to come in and hold your own and make plays. And if they've got to change the game plan or do something different just because you're in, then they probably got the wrong guy, to be honest with you. So if you're a backup and you're, that's where that next man up quote comes from, because when it's your turn and you never know when that's going to be, it can be, the starter could be playing and he gets hurt. You got to jump in there in the next play and you're expected to maintain that level of play. So no excuses about, a starter out and there's backups in there.
Chris, usually Andy Reid is known to give, chip help or, they kind of scheme the plays a certain way. There was a lot of the screen game early. What did you see from the trenches in the first half? I think you're muted.
Jalen Moore didn't look like he was settled early on, and I'm not sure what caused that. He knew he was going to be starting. He's been starting for a couple of weeks. But once he finally settled in and was able to get his anchor, things kind of turned around for the Chiefs passing game. Caliendo got bull rushed too, and that was a big problem early on. I do think that when you look at how this game played out, it was a matter of who wants it more. And Kansas City didn't look like they were really that interested to an extent. I'm not saying the entire first half, but there was parts of the first half where they didn't look like they really wanted it. And Washington did. Washington was going out there. They were being aggressive. They were trying to attack the Chiefs the Chiefs defense, who had stopped the Raiders and basically made the Raiders do nothing the entire, the game before. And I understand the offenses are different, players are different. I get that. But you look at how that shifted from the first half to the second half. It just looked like it was a complete mindset shift, and things flipped over in the second half to kind of change things both on offense and defense.
Here's another indicator, JC, and I'll pass it to you after this. We're talking the sluggish first half. We're looking at the rushing numbers, and you know exactly where I'm going with this if you're an everydayer. Patrick Mahomes, 3 attempts for 31 yards, the longest of them for 15. That's your leading rusher for Kansas City in the first half. Isaiah Pacheco gets 4 carries for 17. Kareem Hunt, 3 for 11. It's a very clear line that I'm asking for. If Andy Reid, if you're listening to the platform, it's a weird timing for you to be listening, but I appreciate you tuning in. We got to get the run game going more consistently in the first half. Maybe that helps settle some of the nerves along the offensive line. Maybe that keeps your offense ahead of schedule to where you don't have to get in those 4th down territories early. Kareem Hunt is a bulldozer on those 4th and shorts. Don't think we haven't noticed those. They've really turned that into an effective move. That is their new tush push for Kansas City, some old school football for you. I need to see the run game be more effective in that first half, JC. I hope I'm not asking for too much.
Yeah, and if you're Andy Reid or Matt Nagy, they would say to you, have you been watching us play over these years? That's not who they are. That's not what they do. That's not what they're going to do. The run is going to supplement the passing game. And, that's just not who they are. And they would say, okay, well, look at the second half. It's not like we still, pounded the ball, but not now look what happens. And they would say a lot of those screens outside to Rashi and those guys, those are considered runs, really. Those are just, get the ball out on the perimeter, get it into your playmaker's hands, and, you get 3, 4, 5 yards. That's a run. That's a win. And that's how they look at it. And, they're not going to pound the ball and, run the ball even when we're up. We're going to run it, but we're not just going to just continue to just pound it. That's just not who they are. So sorry, Aaron. Sorry to burst your bubble, bro, but yeah, you're not gonna see any wishbone. You're not gonna see.
They ran triple option. They ran some triple option.
They did once.
They had some little triple option. All right,
and that was probably for you. Like now, are you happy? You're right.
Hey, they had a wildcat snap too.
Yeah,
and that was very successful. That was very
It
successful.
was.
I know it wasn't a touchdown, but it was different. It gave the defense something else to look at, and they have all these athletes across the ball. I know everybody's got positions and different, but I remember when they were doing the Ferrari red package, and they had all these different things to get the running game involved. The shovel between the tackles that they were doing, like it doesn't have to be I formation. I'm not asking for leather helmet football, but I am asking for a consistent run game between the tackles. It's been a while.
I think you and Ryan would get along very well, Aaron. I will say this though. I do agree with what JC said. They look at the screen game as being their running game, and that is going to consistently be the case. I'm curious. We'll have to ask Darren if there was any update on Pacheco. It looked like he was okay on the sideline from afterwards, so I think he'll be okay going forward. But that would be a loss for this team because he has been running well over the past couple of weeks. Hasn't run a ton, but he has been running well and running hard and finding some holes. So I do think that it's going in the right direction. But the real thing I think that's going to get this offense moving isn't necessarily the running game near as much as it is going to be the screen game and using a guy like Rashard Smith coming out of the backfield to do swing passes and do some of that stuff. I think that's going to be their running game, so to speak, going forward.
Any final words, JC, before we talk about the second half surge for Kansas City? We're kind of talking about the sluggish start here.
Yeah, and defensively, it wasn't so much just the offense. Defensively, they we're like, man, they just went right down the field, and good thing that we stopped them on 4th down a couple of times. We're like, wait a minute, what's going on? So I think it took a little while to kind of settle into what they were doing and how they were doing it. That RPO and Mariota's legs and that kind of stuff. It's one thing to prepare and know what they're doing. You don't see this team a lot. They don't see us a lot. So you kind of got to get used to, okay, man, he's a little quicker than we thought we saw on film. This guy might be doing this a little bit different. They might be, and then you make the adjustments as you go on. And that's what we saw, and then this defense gave up some yards, but they held when they needed to hold.
Very bend, don't break for the Kansas City defense as they help put up a second half shutout in the win over the Washington Commanders. We will recap that second half, the good and the bad, on the other side of this break. We are talking game time. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, log-on screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why we use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I have bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, we are back in on the Chiefs Squad Show. Aaron Ladd, JC Pearson, Chris Clark breaking down Kansas City's third straight win. It is a flawless 3-game sweep as Kansas City enters Buffalo week. And the defense is playing well at the right time. Steve Spagnuolo's unit, as we mentioned, kind of was moving around a lot with Marcus Mariota. He was throwing them a different look in the first 2 quarters. Second half, they locked down, and they get a much-needed win over Washington. Chris, start us off on the second half surge. What stood out to you in the last 2 quarters from Kansas City?
Just first off, Marcus, don't try to hurdle a player. That's all I want to say. But I will say this, you have to tip your cap to Terry McLaurin. Like the touchdown right at the end of the first half and his huge catch in the second half. Defense played well on at least the second play, and you just make a play and you got to tip your cap to him. But you look at the second half and you look at how things started. It was just Mahomes doing Mahomes things. It was him coming out, reading the defense and getting rid of the ball. It was the offensive line settled down. They gave Mahomes time to throw the ball, and he hit the receiver, and it was successful getting down the field. I mean, it wasn't anything that we haven't seen them do time and time again. It's just they couldn't get out of their own way in the first half. They had too many mistakes that kept them from scoring and being able to be successful on drives. And in the second half, they figured it out, and it looks like they made the adjustments at halftime to kind of turn that around and make things go in the right direction.
And
let me give you the drives real quick before you go. Kansas City, 8 plays, 65. This is coming out of the locker room in the second half. 8 plays, 65 for a touchdown. 8 plays, 75 for a touchdown. Then 13, 94 for a touchdown. It's really 119 on here because they lost 25 in penalty yards. 3 touchdown drives coming out of the locker room for Kansas City to really win the game there and pull away.
Yeah, and like I said, the adjustments that they made at halftime, whether they were, play adjustments or mental adjustments, whatever the case may be, they got it done. But, with this team, they are so good in all aspects that you don't need anybody to be a hero except 15. Everybody just do your job, make the play when the play comes to you. That's all you have to do, and the ball's going to come to you. Sometimes, some games you may get more balls than others, but when it comes to you, all you have to do is just make the play. If you're a lineman, just know who you're supposed to block. Just make your block. You don't have to be anything special. Same with defense. This defense is, once they settle in and play, I mean, they have so many guys that can play all around them. Mike Dana, he's a guy that's a hero today. Who would have thought? But, when the plays are there to be made, go make them. And he didn't do anything special. Debo, ball bounces off of Debo Samuels, and he's there to catch the ball. His sack, they don't even block him, because, they get confused up front with all the blitzes that have been happening. They turn him loose, and, he comes up with the big play. And so, you just have to make the play when it's there to be made for you. You don't have to be a superhero on this team. There's so many good stars and guys that can play. Just do your job.
Aaron, one thing you pointed out, the drives 65 yards was the shortest drive that they scored a touchdown on. Generally speaking, this Chiefs team hasn't needed short fields to score points. And that's kind of the crazy thing. When you think about offenses and how they generally score points in the NFL, yeah, you're going to get some 60, 70-yard drives, but Kansas City's had several that have been over 80. You said one was, 119 yards?
Yeah, if you factor in the penalty yard.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're sitting there looking at this team. They have two that are over 70 yards, and they have another one that's over 100, almost 120 yards. You're averaging closer to 80 yards per touchdown drive. That's crazy efficiency when you start talking about how the offense is playing and how they're picking up yardage. And it wasn't just short plays in this game. It was chunk plays at different times. Travis Kelce had a chunk play. Juju Smith-Schuster had another chunk play. Rashee Rice had a chunk play. The guy that didn't have a chunk play, that didn't even get a target in this game, Tyquan Thornton, who started this season hot and was doing everything right. Yeah, and I'm not trying to bash on Tyquan Thornton. That's not at all what I'm saying. But they only had 7 guys that got targets in this game. He wasn't one of them. But you look at how efficient this offense was without him. To think that he's their 5th wide receiver after the year he's had already, this is going to be a very fun squad to continue to watch progress. And they have a huge game coming up against Buffalo, and I think that they're really looking forward to that one.
Hey, that 100-yard drive that you talked about, Aaron, was that the one that Rashee got the unsportsmanlike for throwing the ball?
Yeah, what'd you think? What'd you think of that?
I don't know. You know, when I first saw it, I thought he actually threw it at the guy's helmet. But then when they replayed it, I saw the ref back there. I don't know. I don't know, man. It could go either way. I was like, well, maybe. But
she was arguing it was the ref. He was definitely arguing to Reed. That was to the ref. That was to the ref.
Dude square in the helmet. I don't know, man.
There was a play where he got up on the sideline too, and he kind of threw the ball back at a commander. So I thought he was already kind of walking a tightrope. Word to Kansas City's offense, because I want to hop in on this before I lose my train of thought. And this is maybe an ode to Andy Reid and just what makes him such a brilliant offensive mind and one of the greatest coaches the NFL has ever seen. The Chiefs really have like 3 or 4 different ways that they can beat you offensively. They showed us this kind of dink and dunk offense that they have previewed in years past, where there is no long ball over the top, where they're just going to take the middle grounds, 4, 5, 6 yards. Hey, we'll hand it off here. Hey, the screen game will be a version of our run game. They've showed us a version where they have the deep ball, Tyreek down there somewhere where Mahomes is slinging it all over the yard. They have a version, I hope, somewhere they can find the run game where they can run the ball 20 times. Maybe Mahomes is part of that rushing attack as well. But this was a game tonight where it seemed like first half they came in with a game plan and it just wasn't working. Or Washington had answers for that game plan. They come out of the locker room and say, you know what? Let's try and approach it this way instead. And the next 3 drives, they go 65 yards or more and they score 3 touchdowns and the game is over.
And I give those guys a lot of credit. I give the coaching staff a lot of credit because, you know, I played a lot of games and I broadcasted a lot of games where we interviewed coaches, and not all coaches are willing to adjust. There a lot of coaches are, well, we're going to do what we do and just try to do it better. And, you know, and I always thought that was the dumbest thing. And I'm like, you spend all these hours every week watching film and game planning, but then you talk about, well, we're just going to do what we do. And I'm like, well, then why watch film? Just work on your plays, you know. But these guys aren't like that. These guys, you know, I think they actually look at the opponent and game plan and look at weaknesses. They do that in the first half. They do that drive by drive. And, you know, that's why, like you said, they can beat you in so many different ways, and they can use all those ways in one game, you know, depending on what's working and what's not. And they're willing to do that. And I think that's what makes those guys so tough to stop as well.
It's interesting to me because you hit the nail on the head, Aaron, talking about Patrick Mahomes and talking really, it was more about the Chiefs offense, not just Patrick Mahomes, but the way that they've looked different from year to year. I mean, you look at how they played in 2024, where it's almost all short passing game and it's dink and dunk. And then this year they started opening the playbook up a little bit and throwing the ball down the field. And now it's kind of back to, I'm not going to call it dink and dunk, but you're more looking at your intermediate routes and you're hitting Rashee Rice underneath or, a little bit down the field, but not necessarily doing the deep shots to how long has it been since we've actually seen a deep shot to Tyquan Thornton? Well, he had the one last week. Sorry. He had that one last week, but we haven't seen an emphasis on the deep passing game to Tyquan Thornton or Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy in the past couple of games. And the one to Tyquan Thornton last week was more of a broken play type thing than it was, I think, a designed deep shot. So this offense is going to continue evolving and continue to be different depending on the defenses that they're going to see and who they're going against. I think that's what's going to make it special. And with the wide receivers they have, with the tight ends they have, and if you can get a guy like Brashard Smith more involved in the passing game, it's just going to open things up even further. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch going forward.
And I think this coaching staff too, man, what they do so well, man, is they give these guys a lot of confidence. They let them be who they are, and they let them make mistakes. And, again, some coaching staffs will, hey, you make a mistake and you're out of there. Personal foul, you're out of there. I mean, these guys, think about it. Go back. Butker missed kicks in 6 games or whatever. How many coaches, will back that and stick with him? Look at Jawan Taylor. Everybody's talking about, get him out of there. He's the most penalized guy, but they stick with him, right? And that gives that player confidence too. That hey, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna bust my butt, to try to reward these guys for believing in me. And that's on and on. Look at Rashee, the stuff that he got in. And as soon as he comes back, they welcome him with open arms. Let's get him the ball. They get him the ball. 2 touchdowns. And hey, man, so on and on. So, I think these coaches, in particularly Andy, does a great job, man, of just letting these guys be who they are and living with their mistakes. And don't be afraid to make a mistake. We're not going to just cut you if you make a mistake like some coaches do. And so these guys can go out and just let it loose.
Maybe some fortunate luck for Kansas City as well. I heard on the broadcast tonight, Rashee Rice's fumble recovery was Kansas City's 8th fumbled recovered. They've yet to lose a fumble this year. Maybe sometimes it's better to be lucky than good when things are just rolling in your direction. But you hope that those things continue as the games get a little tougher, gets tougher competition.
And I'm shouting at my TV, shut up. I don't want to hear that because that one's coming and it's going to bounce the other direction. Rashee did a great job covering the fumble, but they take care of the ball. And generally speaking, that has been the way that this team has been playing so well. They haven't been getting a lot of turnovers. The defense hasn't been forcing turnovers. They got one tonight, but it wasn't like, well, they got a couple tonight, actually. There was one very late in the game. But the first one wasn't really a forced fumble or a forced error. It was the guy taking his eyes off of it and Dana making a play, as you said earlier, JC. But you have to make those plays when you get the opportunities. And they had a couple that kind of bounced in their direction and got really close. The defense is going to at least need to start making a couple of more turnover-worthy plays at some point in the future, because you would think that all these close hits going on the defensive side have got to be, going in the direction soon enough, because you would assume that at some point all the fumbles that the Chiefs haven't been losing will start bouncing the other direction.
You just jinxed him, Chris. Dang.
I didn't jinx him. That was on the broadcast.
I saw our guy Darren Smith try to sneak in here before the last segment. We'll save that for the other side. Remember, if you're rocking with us here on YouTube, drop those questions in, those audience questions. We'll try to get those in before the end of this celebratory Chiefs Squad show, 28-7, as Kansas City shuts out the Commanders in the second half. Couple more numbers. What do you make of 9 penalties for 95 yards, JC? I know this was a pretty clean second half, but for KC, that had been something that was trending downwards in past weeks. 9 for 95 seems high.
Yeah, I definitely don't want that. And I'm sure they'll talk about that and emphasize that and try to cut those down. That when you get against the good teams, you can't have that many penalties, especially big penalties. So, again, that game they had 13 penalties. They came back and didn't have any. So they'll I'm sure that they'll talk about that, because you got to cut that down. No question about that.
The one thing I will say on that really quick is the thing that worked to Kansas City's advantage in that to an extent was that those penalties were on special teams. So it wasn't like they got a lot of them. There was at least 3 on special teams. So it wasn't like they got a 1st and 20 where they were so buried behind the sticks that it was going to be hard to get a first down and be able to move the ball. So that kind of helped a little bit. And then Rashee Rice's penalty where it was unsportsmanlike conduct, he got the first down and then they got the penalty. So at that point, you have at least 4 penalties where it's not backbreaking because it's still 1st and 10 to an extent. Yes, you have to go down the field and drive longer distances, but this offense has shown that they can do that.
All right, Darren Smith is back. We've got a full house. We will hear from what he had to say and what he heard in the locker room. Plus, we'll hear from you all, your audience questions and reactions in our final segment here on the Chiefs Squad Show right after this. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a single game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we have a full house here, and let me bring up one more to the stage. Darren Smith is joining us from Arrowhead Stadium. JC Pearson, Chris Clark, Aaron Ladd, our final segment here on the Chiefs Squad Show. Darren, what do you have from the locker room? What was the vibe there as the Chiefs win their 3rd straight game?
Well, the vibe was definitely positive, obviously, because they won. Talked to a couple of the defensive players and Drew Tranquil along with Trent McDuffie. They just felt like it was a tale of 2 halves. You know, they were trying to basically like a boxer kind of feel Mariota and that offense out because, you know, they did play well in the first half, but you know, the second, I must have hit a key word.
I said that. Yo, I said that earlier.
You did say that.
Okay. And so, I mean, but they're excited, and of course, you know, but I asked some of them if they felt like it was a must-win game. Some, you know, Drew was like, well, it's something that we look forward to every week, you know, trying to win every game. I said, yeah, but if you lost today, you know, you'd be a little further down. So because some of them didn't know like where they stood in the conference race, and I told them at the playoffs for the start today, they'd be on the outside looking in. So they do understand that, you know, these especially these next 3 games are must-win games for them because you don't want to have one of these teams having an edge over you head-to-head, and you know that you need to win to try to move up. You know what I'm saying, to try to move up in the standings. So they understand the importance of tonight's win as well as what lies ahead for them.
Was there any update on the status of Isaiah Pacheco or maybe any other injured Chiefs? Did you hear anything about that?
Now, Pacheco, I mean, he looked fine in the locker room, so I don't know, you know, what injury. Now, I did see coming up, it did look like Hollywood might have been in the sling or something, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he got hurt after that opening drive, or he could have just been, you know, kind of undressing or whatever as he was coming up the tunnel. But I didn't get a chance to talk to him. He got dressed and left the locker room kind of quickly. But overall, you know, the players were cool. I talked to Trey Smith briefly. You know, he feels like he'll be back in time for Buffalo, and you know, I mean, everybody else, again, just happy for the win for most of them. Talked to Kelsey briefly. You know, he did ESPN media, so he didn't really talk to the local media here. But, you know, I got a chance to have a word in him, and he's just, you know, he's also looking towards the challenge of Buffalo because while they do win, you know, while the Chiefs do win the, you know, the postseason matchups, they would like to snatch one up in Buffalo this time around.
You like to say everybody gets healthy before Chiefs week. Hey, maybe everybody's getting healthy before the Bills week now, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, it's possible. I mean, but the Chiefs they didn't really suffer too many injuries. I'm in the fourth quarter, I'm down, so I didn't really get a chance to see how the fourth quarter played out. So, but Pacheco, I mean, you know, but we know how Pacheco runs. He runs violent anyway, so it's kind of hard to tell if he's really hurt because he's always running with a full steam ahead.
Definitely a podium game for Mike Dana. He gets a sack, he gets an interception, one of the big turnarounds or one of the big standouts on defense for Kansas City in this one. JC, Chris, Mike Dana's maybe not the sexiest guy, maybe not the guy that all the fans can point out or they're rocking his jersey coming into Arrowhead Stadium, but I think he's been a difference maker along this defensive line as they continue this dynasty, and he was a big difference maker tonight in primetime.
Well, JC said it earlier. You make plays when you have the opportunity. He had an opportunity and he made the plays. He's a lunch pail type guy. Like, you don't expect him to get a ton of sacks. You expect him to come in and stop the run and be a good run defender and maybe give you a little pass rush, but not really get the sack numbers. And to have an interception tonight and to have a sack tonight, that's just kind of icing on the cake for what he's expected to do in Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to him being ready to make the plays when they're there to be made, because you never know when the big play is going to happen. And, we've seen some guys take a couple plays off and, obviously you don't want that. But, Dana tonight was, full speed, 100% every play. And, when the play is there to be made, again, you never know, like on the sack, they turn them loose. And, some guys will be looking to get blocked, but he's up the field. And,
hey, who you talking about, JC? Name some names. Name some names, man. You talking about guys taking plays off.
Sometimes Darren doesn't contribute as much as, we want him to contribute, man. He's,
hold on, JC.
On the locker room,
hold on. Now,
like that,
JC,
man,
JC, look, until you
every show.
Until you put your broadcasting hat back on, JC, don't come for me, okay? Because I'm doing more work than anybody. I'm just sitting there talking. I'm in the trenches right now. You know what I'm saying? So don't come for me. Hold on. One thing I can tell you, I can tell you this. Ain't no other Locked On show doing what I'm doing, period.
Okay.
And Darren, we greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate.
I know, brother. And Aaron out running marathons,
exactly.
He's doing shows.
You know what I'm saying? Get participation awards and stuff.
He wants to go run marathons, man. Run them on our day off.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Got us coming in on our day off to do some work.
Exactly, right? So you want some names? There you go.
Yeah.
So
let me go get my stuff.
I appreciate y'all. All right.
Because I'm like, I still got another post-game show to do. And that's why I love y'all.
Oh, man, we're having some fun here on the Chiefs Squad Show. Chris Clark, JC Pearson, Darren Smith rounding out our coverage of Monday Night Football. Your last chance to get those questions in and get those questions answered. We might as well look ahead to Buffalo. I know we're going to do an extensive Buffalo preview as the week continues. We'll have our regular show on Wednesday. But let's just go ahead and give like a quick little Buffalo preview. They're playing well. Big win for them against the Carolina Panthers, a team that many thought were surging. But I don't think anybody's playing well better than Kansas City in the AFC right now. This is really going to be a true test of two Titans. What do you make of it, Chris Clark?
Well, Buffalo just lost a huge player, Ned Oliver, who's out for the season. That's a huge loss. Chiefs aren't a huge running team, so it's not going to hurt him in that regard, but he's still somebody that gets after the passer and would make things difficult. Especially if Trey Smith wasn't able to go, but it sounds like he's hopefully able to go in this week, which would be huge for this offense. This is going to be a good matchup. The thing that I question when you're going to watch this is which Chiefs defense is going to show up. And I don't necessarily mean, are they going to not play the entire game? It's more of, can they show up early in the first half? Because if they do, this is a game that can stay close. And I think the Chiefs can pull out a victory in the end. But if it's a situation where the Chiefs defense that showed up tonight shows up against Buffalo, they could be down 3 scores before halftime. And I don't think that the Chiefs offense is going to struggle like they did against the Commanders, but all it takes is one bad bounce and it changes the game.
Yeah. I think, Buffalo has to say the same thing. They've got to be concerned. Can they stop this offense when, this offense is going to be ready to play. This team is going to be ready to play. They know who Buffalo is. Buffalo knows who they are. So this will be a big time game up there. Obviously Josh Allen, some people TV analysts think that he's the best quarterback in the league right now. Don't think that Pat is not hearing that as well. But then this whole team, I mean, they know that Buffalo is going to be there in the end. So this is a huge game, and they know how important it is in terms of home field. You don't want to go to Buffalo in the playoffs. So this is it's a big game, and they'll be. I'm sure Andy and those guys would make them well aware of it all week.
And look, I mean, like you said, when it comes to Buffalo, I mean, look, they know what's at hand. They know that they have to win this game. They can't afford the way things are playing right now. They can't afford any more losses. They know that they need to win to get these head-to-head matchups when it comes to seeding later on in the season. Yes, as Clark and a few others said, it's only week 8, but you can get eliminated in week 8 as well, saying by not being ready to play. I do think that because Buffalo's always matched up well against them, no matter how bad their defense is, everybody seems to rise to the occasion when you play Kansas City. Washington, case in point. We thought, I mean, Washington's media were shocked that it was 7-7 at the half. So if they were shocked, just imagine everybody else's surprise of what the score was. And then, of course, the Chiefs offense woke up in the second half. So the one thing that I think Chris or someone mentioned about the offense starting slow, we did see that all it takes is 1 or 2 big plays, and you can be down 28-7 without even a blink of an eye. So, that's the power and the explosiveness in this offense that they've talked about all summer long. And we've gotten a chance now 2 weeks in a row with everyone healthy. I mean, think about it. Hollywood Brown didn't even have a target or a catch in tonight's game. And, and they still won by 21 points. So, Vegas is starting to believe in the Chiefs because we see these point spreads that they're doing. Their favorites going into Buffalo, which, that generally doesn't happen. I mean, to start
give us the early line, Mr. Moneybags, please.
The Chiefs are 1.5 point favorites. Now, if you remember before the season, Buffalo was the only team that was favored in every game this season. So for things to turn around where the Chiefs are coming in as the favorite, that says a lot about what this team has improved on.
These FanDuel and PrizePicks reads. I'm gonna start putting those on your desk. You the expert. you the expert.
Hey, just cash out me the money. You know what I'm saying? I ain't doing it for free.
Hey, you better be careful, bro.
Hey, I take my chances.
They're locking folks up for that kind of stuff.
That's okay. I take my chances. Okay. I ain't doing nothing wrong.
Okay.
We could be looking for a new host here on the Chiefs Squad show very soon, but hopefully not. We'll be back at our normal time Wednesday afternoon previewing this major matchup in the AFC. But for now, we appreciate y'all joining us on this post-game show. Chiefs win 28-7 over the Washington Commanders. I'm Aaron Ladd for JC Pearson, Chris Clark, and Darren Smith. What you want to say, Darren?
I was just wondering, we didn't have no audience questions. I mean, I thought that was the whole point of this last segment.
We went through a lot of them. One person said, what can they do to score early and often? You want to answer that one on the way out?
Sure. Win the coin toss and go first instead of deferring. That's how you start scoring earlier.
Anybody else want to take that one?
That's all.
Get Rasheed Rice involved early in the offense.
Shit, early and often at this rate.
Yeah.
Run the ball. That's my answer for now and forever.
Hey,
don't turn it over.
Balance offense. So, almost 150 yards rushing 2 weeks in a row.
Darren will be along for the full episode next time for the Darren Smith fans.
Some of us got to work.
We'll catch y'all next time, man. Adios.